Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Appamado ko brahmanenge ko dhammo bhavito bahulikato ye ubo atto samadiggaya tittati ditta dhammikang chevang atto yocha atto samparayiko ti. Dear devotees, in this evening Dhamma talk, I selected the topic Appamada. In Pali it is called Appamada and in English rendering is diligence. I am going to base the talk upon one of the sutta you find in the Anguttara Nikaya, Chakkanipata, book of 6. And the starting or the episode goes like this. One of the Brahmana, that is the high caste person, approaching the omniscient one and ask one of the very pragmatic and very important question that I thought will be more applicable to all the devotees gathered today. His question is, Bhante, is there any one thing that will satisfy or accommodate both the wishes in this world as well as the other world? This is the basic question. Katamo panabho gotama eko dhammo bhavito bahulikato ye ubovatto samadiggaya tittati ditta dhammikang chevatto yochatto samparayikoti. So, according to the text, the general rendering is, in this world as well as the world to come, or in this life and the life to come. This is, I thought, very important as well as very pragmatic and practical, because when I am just being exposed to this insight meditation or wisdom kind of training, this occurred to me because at that time my age was around 24 to 30. So during this period I was little interested in. So when I am just trying to understand what is the real meaning of the Buddha as well as how to incorporate in my life, it appeared to be quite fruitful and quite practical in applying myself into the Dhamma. So when I am applying myself and try to incorporate Dhamma into my life, it was appeared to be quite interesting and it is quite practical, but there are a kind of a friction also meanwhile developing with my social relationships, with my friends as well as my family affairs. I was unmarried, even though I am in a family with 10 children, 10 brothers and sisters. But it was not, of course, a very heavy issue. So there I met my immediate teacher, who was Australian, Venerable Dhammika, called Sravasya Dhammika. And he and myself was really dealing with issue, because when we are going more and more into the Dhamma, pondering into the Dhamma, allocating more and more time to the Dhamma, it appears like you are negligent about or forgetting about the day-to-day affairs or some kind of a lapse in the social relationships. And whenever you become busy with the social things, you feel quite busy calendar and you find very little time to go to the temple or to listen to the Dhamma talks, that kind of thing. So there was a kind of a friction, how to tally these two. So at that time, of course, Venerable Dhammika helped me a lot how to deal with it, and he told, don't take it as a tension, try to be mindful as much as possible. That is also one way of Dhamma. But when I go to Burma, and there are the Venerable Sayadaw, U Pandita, he was quite concerned about practicing yourself as well as how to relate it to the others and teaching others and how to be in the normal world also. In that sense, he is quite a pragmatic, practical as well as a dynamic teacher. So he called this sutta. This is called Eko Dhammo. Eko Dhammo means the one thing that accommodate this both the sides and take care about the progress or dynamism in your day-to-day life or in the worldly life as well as in Dhamma life. So lucky enough that particular Brahmana, the high caste person, go to the Buddha and asking on behalf of us, and there the omniscient one give a very simple and straightforward answer. He is asking, is there Bhante any simple thing or one thing that will satisfy both the affairs, both the desires? And he says yes. Then he is pleading, please, Venerable Sir, teach me that particular thing, and that is the outcome of the answer. Appamadoko Brahmana Eko Dhammo Ditta Dhammikan Cheva Atto Yecha Atto Samparayiko Chati. So diligence, that is a simple and the direct answer. So I think most of you have already come up to this and would have heard about and come to know. And how to incorporate this diligence into the day-to-day life. Before proceeding further, I would like to give another synonym to the diligence, which already has accepted in the commentarial and our lineage also. Diligence is equal to mindfulness. So appamada is equal to sati. So when this comes, it appears a little more and more pragmatic, and we can have more familiarity either in terms of diligence or in terms of mindfulness. For the last 30-40 years, there has been quite a upheaval or very quite new phase in the Buddhism has come because basically of this mindfulness. And if you are comparing and going to take comparison between mindfulness and the diligence, I think it is easy to digest, because either diligence or mindfulness would have come already into your vocabulary when you are working with this Buddhism. And the practical part, the diligence, is, for my understanding, covering a large scope, vast area, and mindfulness is rather technical than the appamada, but anyway mutually helping each other to understand. So appamada, as far as we are going back to the key term, also can give some more light when you are comparing with its antonym and the opposite of it. It is called pamada. It is being translated as negligence. So basic message of the Buddha is to make the listeners and make the practitioners more diligent from the state of negligence. So the negligence very easily could be put into 3 layers or 3 degrees, and that is easy to understand in our day-to-day life or in our spiritual life or religious life. That is called 3 kinds of defilements are quite acquainted with or familiarized with this negligent kind of life, neglected kind of life. Or if you are not mindful or absent-minded or you are negligent, often you are battered with or burdened with these 3 kinds of defilements. In technical terms, they call Vitikkama Kilesa, Pariuttana Kilesa, and Anusaya Kilesa, and we translate it as transgressional kind of defilements, and the obsession kind of, and the dormant kind of. And when you are comparing these 3 layers or 3 degrees, the transgressional kind basically or very straightforwardly you can say verbal and physical misdeeds. And that is of course going to make social troubles and making the society also disturbed, not only you yourself, and as far as you are transgressing the social norms as well as the moral codes, definitely after a certain level, the society also going to get the backlash and you also. So therefore, this kind of a transgressional form, very easy to understand as far as you yourself concerned or through the relationship with the other people. So this basically says the physical misdeeds, categorically in the Theravada tradition, it is called the killing, stealing and sexual misconduct. And I think we need not go that much of details to understand the gravity of its damage. And the other is verbal misconduct, lying, slandering, and harsh words and meaningless words. So these two, easy to understand. So they are, in order to avoid that, in order to come into the kind of a moral conduct or moral restraint, you have to be diligent. If you are negligent, as far as you are going to satisfy your sense impressions like seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching and thinking, if you are not concerned about this transgressional kind of kilesas or defilements, and if you are not diligent up to that level, and if you are negligent about this kilesa side, and if you are going to entertain limitlessly about seeing, hearing kind of thing, then the point where you transgress is quite a critical an issue, because it depends on your interpretations, and the society will interpret in one way and you will interpret in one way. Ultimately there will be a clash, and then the society will be hurt, and still you may claim, no, I am in my standards, it is my rights, I can see the visual forms and this is my right, and I can hear and I can taste, I can smell, I can touch and all the kind of thing. But it is an issue, of course, to come to an agreement with the other party. But as far as your fantasy, not in the awakened form, not in the diligent form, your judgment and your measurement and your consideration of the other psychologies are rather clouded and puddled. Therefore, ultimately, the transgression is going to lead a lot of repercussions, and therefore the social friction as well as internal mental frictions arises. So in that sense also, to come up to the sphere where you have moral restrainment or moral conduct, the diligence or the sensitivity and the awakening into the present moment, be mindful in seeing, hearing, smelling, touching and tasting, that kind of thing will give a kind of a good arouse, kind of a good sensitivity to your psychology as well as the other psychology. If you are going to keep on doing entertaining and asserting your sense impressions, negligent about these others' affairs, others' comfort and others' rights, often both the parties fall into the trouble. So therefore, as far as you are mindful, as far as you are diligent, there may be internal kind of a suggestion and internal kind of a reconsideration and opening and openness to recorrect yourself and go for a betterment is there. But if you are not so, and if you are negligent, often it is leading to the kind of a head-to-head kind of a fighting. So therefore, mindfulness must be there. If you are not mindful, if you are not diligent, most of the time you will be aware of the situation when it is already gone beyond the control and facing the misfortunes. So therefore, the the kind advice of the Omniscient One is to be mindful before the misfortune comes. In that sense, you can, from the rationalization point of view, the deductive knowledge, you can say, you can deduce 4 points, and upon which you can say, should I give a consideration for this kind of reconsideration of my diligence and the negligence or mindfulness, or should I dedicate my life for mindfulness, meditation on mindfulness. This is one of the formulation done by Venerable U Pandita, and it was, I think, quite appealing. So I'd like to go into these 4 points, and it will be easy to understand the subject of diligence. We take the one entity, one person, usually in Buddhist way, it analyzes as the corporeal part and the mental part, or the body and the mind. For the maintenance of the body, we have to often feed it with the solid foods, liquids and air. And if it is lacking foods or solid or air, immediately it responds with a quick reaction. In the canonical way or in the commentarial way, it says, without food, you will try maximum 7 months. Without liquid, 7 days. Without air, 7 minutes. So immediately, otherwise, the body is going to react and it will be forgetting about any kind of progress. It will be really engaged in its maintenance and the issue come up to the death. So therefore, each and everyone has to, every healthy person has to take care about the food and the liquids as well as the air, good air. But this is only taking care about the body. But hardly we are concerned about the food for the mind. If it is not so, if we are not taking care in terms of giving this food to the mind, that is also becoming so agitated and so unhealthy to the mental development. Just like if you are deprived of air, suffocation, and then so quickly the body become shivering and concerned about much of the life and the death. Exactly the like, if the mind is not provided with its due care and due food, it's also the same way. So, appamada or mindfulness is the one keeping the mind within the range of comfort zone. Soon it goes beyond the mindfulness, it can thrive few seconds and again starting its reactions. So therefore, anyone who is considering the mental aspect as well as the physical aspects of the life, and comparatively he can take the value of giving the food and giving the care to the mind. These are 1 point, so you can elaborate and understand. Are we really concerned about this mental aspect of our life? The second thing is, still along the same example, when you are seriously fallen sick and on the recovery area, it is very difficult for you to take food and the liquid, sometimes breathing also. So at that time, all your relatives and the loved one will get together and try the best to have a fast recovery. But you have to anyhow eat yourself and drink yourself and breathe yourself, and any relatives come by eating, they can't help yourself. So you have to do yourself. Exactly the like mindfulness and the training of diligence, whatever the enlightened beings explain the importance of it, you have to do it, today or tomorrow. Therefore, you have to take little time and consider, if you are not going to correct this line, correct this the mindfulness and introduce the mindfulness, be diligent, very difficult you to dedicate it to the agent or a party, something like that. So therefore, you have to do one day. Therefore, just like giving the thoughts the mental aspect, as well as you have to do yourself. Therefore, it is important thing. One has to stop and think. The third point is, it must be trained and installed before the unfortunate thing comes. Because at the face of unfortunate situation, disturbed situation, you can't train mindfulness. It must be already trained mindfulness. Then only the vicissitudes of the life comes. You can be patient and you can indifferently face it and go through. Otherwise, at the face of difficulties or in the midst of difficulties, it is difficult. So whenever and the other thing is, definitely as we are advancing in our life, we are reaching the old age. We are often come across diseases and the death. When they becomes, you get lesser and lesser time, as well as your senses and all the organs become weak. So then the installation or initiation of the mindfulness become more and more challengeful. So therefore, any time, in Sri Lanka we call any time is tea time. Exactly that mindfulness is, any time is for the time for mindfulness. Because it is needed, the mental aspect is always asking, just like food to the body. And you have to do. You can't hire someone, you can't dedicate to someone, therefore you have to do. And you must be prepared before this misfortune comes. And misfortunes are definitely, no one can do away with them. And therefore the mindfulness becomes so urgent and it becomes so immediate here and now. I will add another dimension, if I have to take into myself, here I am now. You have to come to the mentality into this base. That is one of the shortest method to introduce mindfulness or the diligence in the practical side. So therefore, just like giving food, drinks and liquids and the air, the food for the mental aspect is be mindful. That means be in the present moment. Here, now, I am. And that aspects never one can do it for you. Whatever they have the concern about you, therefore you have to do. And definitely if you can train the mind, if you can familiarize the mind to this particular dimension, where here, now I am, so that is the best way to face or best way to tackle this kind of vicissitudes or misfortunes in the life. And therefore it is going to take care, just like your best noble friend or most needed equipments in your life, the mindfulness can be categorized very easily. And therefore it is taking care about the maintenance of the body and the good health, all the kind of thing. And the fourth point is, on top of that, all the kind of measurable benefits, it is going to be a far-reaching spiritual kind of benefits, and that is what the Buddha, the omniscient one, introduced right before the discourse of Sathipattana Sutta, for foundation of mindfulness, which is the purification of beings and overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, and then the physical and mental pain, and the understanding of your own least frictional path, and ultimately the realization. These seven also an added bonus, an added advantage of this mindfulness. So therefore, these 4 points, you have to give a little second thought and think, am I to take little time and understand this to install now, or otherwise definitely it is going to work for the disadvantage of you. So therefore, appamada, when you come back to the diligence, the moral restrainment. You have to introduce it yourself, and it's very clearly stated in the Buddha, the Sikkhapada or the precepts, no one can impose upon others. But of course it can be very clearly laid down And it can be advantages and disadvantages could be compared, but you must be mature enough to take yourself and apply yourself, and then the most gross form of, or preliminary form of appamada going to set in. And when the moral conduct or precepts or restrainment regarding the physical misdeeds, verbal misdeeds, when you are going to when you are going to seriously give second thought on this kind of thing, there are two qualities going to come to you. That is the moral fear and the moral shame, or healthy fear and the healthy shame. And that is how you become sensitive to your psychology, as well as it is directly applicable to the psychology of the others or other people interacting with you. So therefore, these two, moral shame and the moral fear, it make your senses more sensitive toward the psychology. And without the appamada, they have become very arrogant and they are not sensitive. Therefore, the point where you transgress becoming a problematic thing. If the moral shame and the moral fear sets in, your point of transgression will be very sensitive, and you feel up to this much I have my human rights. But from beyond that, I may or may not be disturbing others, and therefore you have to be diligent, you have to be vigilant, and you have to be mindful in that state. And this particular point where the transgression takes place, and if you are awakened to that sensitivity, if you are mindful to that sensitivity, for my understanding, you are understanding the universal mind. You understand the human mind. It is not your personal business. This is one of the very beautiful places where mindfulness come into play, and your whole life becoming an experiment, a research. And you can see up to this point, I am entertaining my senses, sense impressions, and this is very justifiable and goes according to Dhamma. And beyond that, beyond this particular point, I am transgressing. And in this transgression, you are hurting yourself as well as hurting others. You are hurting the present moment as well as you are hurting the future. Unless otherwise this faculty of diligence awaken and keep it in ready, you often overlook this situation, and then ultimately you will misinterpret the whole situation, telling the other party or other person created this kind of misfortune upon me, and therefore it is attributed to the others, and so much of repercussions happen. So this is the world, this is what is happening in outside. The moment you start this mindfulness at this third level, be mindful or be diligent in your moral conduct, you start this kind of a sensitivity. And that is the very, very preliminary, and otherwise definitely you have to undergo the social laws and other constitution and everything. You have to undergo punishments also. So therefore, it is very gross, very easy to understand, very easy to teach others also. But when you are proceeding, we will say that someone understand that situation, introducing the diligence at the level of your physical and verbal conduct, and then if you are going to see some kind of a positive marks, and if you are appreciating and if you can feel what does it mean by the moral shame and the moral fear, or healthy shame and the healthy fear, the sensitivity arises, definitely will not stop at that level. This is the level that it is progressing, and it giving the progress or dynamism up to this world, benefit of this world, progress of this world. But it never stops at that level. When you are going to be mindful, be diligent in your verbal and physical conduct, and most of the time your mistakes will be repeated because you are in a rut. Same mistakes happen, but your diligence comes and it sheds some light This is the point I transgressed, and this is the point where I would have been controlled it, but I was not fortunate and I transgressed, and this is the consequences. The moment you see the beginning, the middle and the end in very vague manner, that will give another kind of an eye. You will see other members in your vicinity, those who are also concerned about mindfulness. They are also concerned about the vigilance. And then you will be connecting, you will trying to feel the good vibes of the noble friends. Otherwise, often you will be, you are neglecting. So therefore, internally you are awakening into this mindfulness as well as the diligence, as well as you will try to feel the other people also, those who are already started this mindfulness, and they are fighting. Of course, they are also doing the mistakes, you are also doing the mistake, but mechanism going to be little by little more open. You try to see the formula, where these kind of misfortunes comes, and unless otherwise you diligent, you usually attribute to the others, the second party. When the mindfulness comes and when the diligence comes, you feel it is a kind of a unfair kind of a conclusion, and your responsibility, the moral responsibility, is more answerable to that. But unless otherwise you become diligent or mindful, you can't see this mechanism. Someone has to come and put into the jail or put into the prison, and then only you have to think. Even then, hardly you will come to a healthy kind of a analysis. And this is, if you are mindful and if you are diligent and take care about your physical and verbal conduct, not only that, you become sensitive to the point where the transgression happens, and you will see other friends, noble friends, those who are also fighting, and definitely you are bound to see more advanced people along this diligence and along this mindfulness. And they are not simply or solely concerned about this moral side, but they are little concerned about the concentration training too. And it is going to reinforce the sensitivity, and then they are not only concerned about the physical and verbal restrainment, they are going to do kind of a halfway or informal way mental training, mental culture, or kind of meditation. That is a term now commonly used for meditation. So therefore, whenever you are going to save little time by proper conduct, verbal and physical, without transgressing, your mental vibrations and the perplexity of the mind, agitation of the mind also little reduced, and your time also, of course it takes little time to get into your system, and you find that beating on the bush no more. You can really shoot to the target, and then most of your works will be save little time, and that time is not basically you are going to allocate for increase the indulgence in the senses, but instead you will take little time and try to be solitude and be concerned about meditation or object of meditation, contemplating upon the object of meditation. And these have very direct relationship. If you are morally in a restrained manner, the agitation of the mind also slowly reducing, and your timetable also going to become a little organized, and there you must be very careful, you must be very economical to give little time for this concentration training. Avippatisarattha ananda kusalani silani. That is what that is the way the Buddha has presented it, that Ananda, if your moral conduct is skillful, if you are doing in a good way, definitely the perplexity of the mind will be reduced, or frustration or tension will be slowly reducing. So you must be really lucky to be diligent in moral conduct, and upon that, if you know the way the Buddha has analyzed it and leading you, and you feel more faith and more believing of the Dhamma as well as the Buddha, how compassionate he was, and he put himself first, and then he has declared it very clearly, but it is not the completely superficial thing, you can apply yourself and see. Of course, this is happening in the very peripheral level, but it is working. And then only he says, when the mind becomes, whenever you try to see, try to experience the calming down the nature of the mind and reduction in the tension and the perplexity, that you must take little time or take initiative to go for concentration, meditation. So this is what usually in the laity it is called the generosity, the moral conduct and the meditation. But when you have become full-time meditators, the story different. It says moral conduct, concentration training and the wisdom training. But in the gross form it says the generosity and the moral conduct and meditation that contain both concentration, meditation and the insight. But in this sutta it is not really make an opening to this discrimination between the concentration meditation and the wisdom or insight meditation. But therefore I am not going to deal that. But basically it says if the verbal and physical restraint happens, it has its own nature to lead some kind of a mental culture. When this mental culture comes, not the transgressional kind of defilement going to deal with, but instead you are going to see the obsession kind of defilements. The transgressional kind, what we recognized, we discussed earlier, going to have a social impact, and therefore others can measure you by your physical and verbal behavior, and therefore even if you are going to hide it, but you can't do it for a long time. But the obsession kind of defilement, it is not expressing outside, but you can feel. When the desire arises in the mind, in the stream of your consciousness, you can feel. Sometimes other may not with your facial impressions and the other behavior. But of course you can hide it, but of course definitely you are going to feel. And when the hatred or ill will arises, definitely you know. Sometimes with the etiquettes and the social behavior and all the manners and kind of thing, you may or may not be expressing it. But definitely, if you are sensitive, you can feel it. And the sloth and torpor, and the perplexity of the mind, and the doubt. These are the 5 things categorically known as obsession kind. So they are not, may or may not be expressing or transgressing outside, but when it comes, you can see they are undermining all your assets, unless otherwise you have a special kind of training or special kind of diligence, special kind of mindfulness, only geared for this obsessional kind of defilements. And there you have to very clearly understand your effort to train yourself in this moral conduct will never give results on the obsessional kind of the defilement. You have to do special kind of a training for this obsessional kind of kilesas, obsessional kind of defilements. Therefore, moral conduct is one set of rules. And then concentration training or concentration meditation, yet another set of rules. If you are going to advance from this preliminary stage to the secondary stage, there you have to have solitude. And in the senses, as far as the entertaining of the sense impressions are concerned, you are going to carnivals and have a lot of visible forms, different shapes and the colors. And then you think it is the happiness in the life. And you are listening to so much of music in different variety, classic music or rock music, whatever may be. And the smell-wise also, you are going to enter in the whole the range and you think you are rich. And then you are going to have all the kind of tastes and all the kind of parties, three meals a day, if you can multiply any time. And then the senses, when I come for us to the Colombo and Colombo to Australia, you can see the luxuries. All things are going to give the bodily comfort. And you think this is the measurement of the social status. Only in the thought-wise also, you can see. But when you are changing your strategies from the moral conduct to the concentration training, you see, you have to close your eyes. to the visible forms. You have to go away from the sounds and have silence. And how much money you have to pay for that in the search of the solitude. And go for the normal air. In the Buddha, in the Sutta, it says Vijanavata. Vijanavata means away from the human beings. The smell coming after a human being is arousing. So you have to go away. So otherwise he called, go to the Sunyagara. Sunyagara means those who have the same taste is no problem, but if the different people have different tastes, specifically those who are going more and more to the sense indulgence, their vibrations are not so good for the meditation. So you have to go for Vijanavata, that means go into the forest or into a place where there is no much of socializations. And then the taste-wise also, that is the mouth, it is doing two jobs, talking and eating. Both has to be reduced. And in the thinking, nowadays people think the free thinking or liberalization of the thoughts is go to the wild level. So there also you have to reduce. Whenever the physical and verbal contact comes, you see kind of a restrainment, and on top of that you have to see. Otherwise, this is the kind of a open door, very difficult to control. So from moral conduct to the moral training to the concentration training, you see the approach to the senses or sense impressions, the visible and the sounds, the smelling and the taste and the foods, luxuries and all the pet ideas and your different views, all has to be reconsidered. More and more you away from this, the visible and the colors and the sounds and the smell and all the kinds, more and more conducive for the concentration meditation. And that is the point. Many people, individual has to make a really a decision. Am I going to sacrifice all kind of thing and to have a 1 hour or half an hour day on the solitude? Or is it worthwhile to get this concentration training? Or am I to do completely whole 24 hours possible with this sense pleasure? So this is kind of a maturity or kind of a one stage you have to go, and sometimes it is not a hard and fast rule. The Buddha says you have to be more, your age must be somewhere around 40. And that is why psychology says you are reborn at the age of 50. Till that you are in a one-way line that you are indulging and entertaining senses. And when it's a 40, 50, most of the time you may be having children and the family life, and there the moral conduct is a must. And then you can have the second thought about this sense impression. And not only that, you are going to have a kind of a restraint, imposing, and then have 1 hour sitting meditation, either in the concentration type, or later we will talk further on the insight meditation. And when that happens, it's a very hard task, sure. And then the moment you are going to gain the early signs of the concentration, and you can see it is diagonically opposing with the sense impression and the concentration. More and more you losing this agitation from the external impingements, it is becoming more and more conducive for the concentration training. And therefore, instead of 5 hindrances, the Kamachanda, Vyabhada, Thena Midda, Uddhacca, Kucca, Vicikicca, that is mean the desire, the ill will, the sloth and torpor, and then perplexed mind and the doubts. Instead, the mind going to develop 4 jhanic aspects, Vitakka, Vichara, Piti, Sukha, Ekaggata. And when you are taking, for example, mindfulness on breathing, at the beginning, the teacher or the books, whatever maybe the instruction would say, the concentrate upon the in-breath and out-breath. And in order to see the inhalation and exhalation, you have to have kind of a solitude. There is no much of a impingement of the visual objects, sounds, and the smell and the taste, and instead the sensitivity of the body must be the aim, and there you are fully observing the in-breath and out-breath. Whether you are observing or not, it is happening. Therefore, in-breath and out-breath, it is a given thing, and it's a neutral kind of an object. Now you are be mindful on in-breath and out-breath. And that's the simple thing, or the simple way of explaining the meditation. But when you are putting that into the practice, it is going to give us so much of a big difference. Because this is the place you can apply the diligence and the negligence. Most of the time when you are eating, when you are drinking, when you are breathing, you never set the cast the light of mindfulness into that. Therefore, it is happening in a mechanical way, and you have no responsibility. You can't account it for, and you can't verify it. But when the mindfulness comes in, this very simple breathing also becoming difficult. You start to do forced breathing, and so much of difficulties arises. So therefore, you have to take the best of your time and the best of your sitting posture, and then have the time with the spiritual atmosphere, pay respect to the Buddha, light a lamp, and do some recitation, and then with the best calm situation, try to feel, try to see, try to experience in-breath and out-breath. When it is happening, once it comes to your focus, you are being asked to observe in-breath and out-breath, if possible, with one single point. That is where the in-breath is rubbing or touching most prominently. Out-breath also touching or rubbing most prominently. That will be the seat upon which mindfulness fixed, and you see in-breath and out-breath. And then the sound disturbs, bodily pain disturbs, thoughts are coming, all the kind of disturbances can happen. So therefore, sometimes in order to focus the attention on this breathing exercise and to avoid the disturbances from pain and the sounds and kind of things, start labeling or noting in, out, in, out. When this is happening, and if you are face to face with the primary object, or in terms of in-breath and out-breath, and then become closer and closer, observing mind or meditating mind and the object of meditation becoming closer and closer, lesser and lesser chances for you to develop desire. Definitely, in-breath and out-breath is not an object to have a desire, and no room for ill will. And there is no chances for falling into sleep or sloth and torpor. And the perplexed mind is no more, because mind is geared, focus into the breathing. And the doubts have nothing, because more and more you put effort, the breathing or object of meditation becoming closer and closer, face to face with. So there is no doubt. When it is happening, or other way you have to put, to keep that situation continue, you have to again and again apply the mind. While in-breath, you have to note in-breath. When you use out-breath, you have to note out-breath. So otherwise, push the mind to the object. This is what they call vitakka, applying thoughts. And when it is applying, is in-breath phase, you try to be mindful, be diligent with in-breath, nothing else. And when it is out-breath, simply out-breath. And when this is happening, each time you present your mind to the in-breath, it touches the in-breath and experience it. And then it can explain or discriminately, this is not out-breath, this is in-breath, and these are the natural characteristics of in-breath. And then it is go on, and then you come back to the out-breath, and there also you will see this is not in-breath. In-breath experience is this. Now I am in out-breath, it is here. It is like this. Like that, you have to discriminately, you can see, in-breath and out-breath, this is called the vichara. You taste it, you experience it. Unless otherwise, you are not sure, in in-breath, you may be noting as out-breath. In out-breath, you may be noting as in-breath, but that is not the proper way. It is be focused as well as that each time you feel it, you have to experience discriminately. That is what the function of vichara. It tastes it. At the beginning, definitely it is the example given is you are trying to give a watermelon on the top of a running horse. Very difficult. Because both of them are like in the heavy round shape. Very difficult. But more and more you put the effort, slowly, you will develop your own strategies. What is the best way and how to maintain the mindfulness from breathing in to the breathing out to the breathing in. And when it is happening, the very moment it is going to be continuous, you will feel kind of a rapture. Now there is a kind of a contact. Now kind of a control. And that rapture is the one going to give ultimately the lesser and lesser effort, more and more rapture. You really can feel, then digest, you be completely with breathing. It is called sukha. The experience, the ecstasy of it. And then the mind will converging slowly, one point at this. These are the 5 things coming and the 5 hindrances, that obsession kind of defilement will be gone off. So when it is going for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, kind of effective kind of continuous mindfulness, you feel how much of a relaxation. If you can have that kind of 5 minutes, it is almost equal to 2 hours of sound sleep. When you get up, you feel some kind of a freshness. And it's quite completely accountable. Whenever there is no diligence, no mindfulness, you can't. You don't know. But when the mindfulness comes, each and every breathing, in-breath and out-breath, discriminately you can see. But if the same intensive kind of concentration meditation, if you are going to apply in walking meditation, it is more dramatic. Because eyes are open, and you can hear bird sounds or any kind of thing, as well as the smelling, tasting, all the body tactile sensations, and maybe here and there some wandering thoughts. Even then, kind of a mindfulness arises. It is not like a regimentation in the army telling left, right. That is not the case. But here in the normal phase of walking, and you can entertain kind of a vigilance, kind of a mindfulness, and therefore it is more durable and more dramatic. And that is the point where you going to apply this intensive kind of mindfulness what you experience in sitting to the day-to-day life. But unfortunately, Australians are very little walking. I see all they are jumping to the car, to the office and sitting, come back to the jump and all. So I am very happy to see people are walking, maybe the climatic situation, very little walking I see. But if you have the walking meditation, even in the meditation center, you see this is the point where day-to-day activities and the intensive kind of sitting can be breached. And then from there onward, you can see whatever the private practice you do, washing dishes or brushing your teeth or whatever may be, you can have yet another kind of mindfulness, and then all the 3 aspects, the sitting meditation, walking meditation and day-to-day activity, slowly try to be vigilant. Of course, the best happen as far as the concentration is concerned in sitting. As far as the inside meditation is concerned, the best is in the day-to-day activities. But I think we are running short of time. So today I thought of stopping at this concentration training. And of course, this sutta also talking only this Ditta Dhammikanceva Atho Samparayiko. It's a traditionally translate for this life as well as the next. But only the inside meditation say how to stop it in this very life. But today, due to the time aspect, I would like to stop at that level. Therefore, I hope most of you have already given some thoughts on this moral conduct and moral training, as well as concentration and training. So I am going to give little theoretical light on that. and try to share with my experience with that. So this will be a further promotion and encouragement to be vigilant in this moral aspects as well as the concentration aspects, and with that definitely we must find the path to go further into the insight meditation or wisdom training, and that will be more and more very immediate with results, as well as the most core message of the Buddha. So hoping that we will be meeting again and talking in this further. Today with this kind of set of information, I would like to stop. Thank you very much.